Alright, good evening, y'all. Mukbang Jules, Foodie Jules here again. It's a Saturday night. Calls for a Saturday night dinner. I got it's supposed to be soul food style braised oxtails and a brown gravy. First time making it. And yeah, have it pairing with a little bit of rice and a little bit of leftover cabbage I had from my milfew, or one of my Japanese hot pot that I made with pork belly. Just cut up some of the cabbage. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and give this oxtail a try. I'm very happy. The oxtail is nice and super tender. Let's give it a taste. Very tender. I think I could add more salt. I got a little paranoid because of the lack of salt, but actually, hold that thought. This needs to be microwaved a bit. I am going to try to microwave this. You know, oftentimes you find your food gets cold when you do all the plating. And so really the camera does get to eat first if you're posting your stuff on Instagram. I got a little bit of Shiraz that I got as a housewarming gift. Shout out to my old boss from Australia. He's probably not watching this, but if you are, I won't mention names just for privacy. I'm going to go ahead and give this a try. Nice. It's an Australian Shiraz, apparently. I'll read the back. From South Australia, Penfolds Bin 28 showcased the proven synergy between rich South Australian Shiraz and a well-integrated American oak derived from 12 months barrel maturation. It is Penfolds' oldest bin wine. As with all Bin 28 wines, this wine will benefit from careful cellaring. We invite you to explore the Penfolds range and discover a success story more than 175 years old. Wow, impressive. Seems like a 2020 vintage. Very nice. Now, I think Shiraz usually goes well with barbecued and grilled meats. Stews also as well. So I think it is fitting to eat this with stewed oxtails. Very beefy, very flavorful oxtails. But yeah, what is there to talk about? Nothing really new from work, I think, or life. It's basically the same old. Just has been really stressful going into the holiday season. My work is kind of tied to the business cycle as applies to Black Friday shopping. I'm not naming any names, but you can probably guess who I work for, but I don't want to talk about that. But yeah, really enjoying these oxtails. They're nice and super tender. But yeah, I think what's new in life right now? Yeah, it just feels like I think this year has gone super fast. I'm just at the point where it's like closing out the year. Around this time in the Northwest, we're kind of hibernating. It gets dark really early, around 5 o'clock here. It's going to get darker earlier. You know what this could actually benefit from? I think I'll get a little horseradish to eat with this. I know I do have some horseradish in the fridge. Or not in the fridge. My pantry. I'm going to go ahead and open this. This is going to comply. It's not being very compliant. Well, kudos to the folks who made this seal. It's really, really tight. Really good seal, I should say. Nice. All right, got a little beaver horseradish, extra hot. I actually don't know where they make this. Let's see. It is an Oregonian brand, local to the Northwest, smelling nice and pungent. Get a little bit on my plate. I love horseradish. Let's give it a taste. Hope I don't burn my, or blow my sinuses out. Cheers. That's good. It's just what those oxtails needed. Granted, I think this horseradish is past its prime. It's not that kicky. Punchy. Punchy is the word, not kicky. It's not. I don't think that's a real word. But yeah. Man, what is new? I think I'm just like really tired from work. I can like barely hold a conversation, I reckon. See, that's what happens, kids. I think if you work too hard, you become a dull boy, as many people say. And that's not really good. I think, looking back, I think this year, I think there was a lot of rumination, just kind of reflecting on my 20s. It's a really good, I think, learning period in the point of your life, or the point of my life. I think your 20s are really coming, for me, we're just coming into confidence in who I am and like what my desires are, honoring those desires in the right way. I think this is usually, this has been manifest a lot through kind of my relationships, some of which I think pseudo relationships, maybe relationships not the right word, but making sure that yeah, like just, man, I'm rambling. I'm honestly just rambling right now, but not really scripted at all. But I think what I'm trying to say, or at least when I was younger, maybe I'm just going on a tangent. When I was younger, I feel like I was a little more willing to compromise who I was or what I wanted, especially in a relationship, and like, hoping, in the context of my life, I was in a situation where I wanted a relationship with a girl, and like we had a great rapport. We were good friends, but definitely we were never on the same page. I think she just wanted something like not serious. And yeah, like I think I allowed myself to kind of just be swept into a situationship with the hope that I could convert it to an actual relationship. But usually that's not the case, kids. Like I think if anyone's younger watching this, I doubt, I don't know, I might have some younger subscribers. Like, you can never change people's minds. That seems like a counterintuitive statement, or maybe sometimes maybe it might be obvious to some people, but Only other people can change the other person. You have no control of what people do in some sense. You try to influence them, can control them, but at the end of the day, everyone's their own autonomous person, and sometimes you just can't convince people, and that's kind of what happened. Like, that's, if I could summarize, it was like, it's been a while now. Now I think about it, like, I think been like 5, 6 years, 4 years, 6 years. I guess depending on when you start the clock, but since this happened, but like in a story, in a nutshell, not in a story, in a nutshell, I was in a on and off situationship with this girl. We were never on the same page. I wanted something at one point, and then I think I should have ended things sooner, because there was a lot of stuff that happened. It was a complicated situation, but the crux of that learning was, if someone tells you who they are, or tells you not who they are, but what they want, what they're looking for, don't try to change their mind. And whatever you do, whether you want to, and I don't advocate for casual relationships. I know some people will argue about that, but if you want something serious and the other person wants something casual, just drop it. Don't just drop it after that. It'll save you a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain. Although for a lot of people, and I think for myself included, like I can be pretty stubborn sometimes, and sometimes you just have to touch the stove to kind of really understand, like really internalize that you shouldn't do that in the future. I mean, I don't know. Pretty boring story. I didn't go into details. I don't want to name names, but that's how the cookie crumbles, basically. Those oxtails are pretty good. I think I need a little more salt there. But I think I'm going to get a little seconds. And yeah, we'll begin after that. All right, we're back. So got some seconds of oxtails. A little more rice. I'm going to do a little more horseradish. I love horseradish. But yeah, I think lessons from your 20s. I think I do have maybe some regrets. I mean, there's definitely things that you can do when you're young that you can't do now, or it's very difficult to do now. I think, one of the things that comes to mind, I remember a couple of my buddies. One I was closer to back in school. We're still friends, but I haven't heard from him in a while. He moved out to LA. But yeah, they were driving up across the country. This is back in like right before my senior year of college. We were doing internships in Seattle, and they were going to drive up, and like, yeah, they wanted to do like a road trip, and like, I remember I had like the lamest excuse. Like, I think I was doing some online class concurrently with my internship just to like get my credits for my school, and I was just afraid of getting distracted. Like, looking back, it was like a dumb excuse. Like, I definitely should have gone. That would have been like an awesome, like, fun trip. And like, yeah, like those kinds of things, you just don't get much of an opportunity to do when you're hitting your 30s. Everyone lives everywhere else. It's really hard to synchronize dates for like a trip like that. It's with friends, and especially if there are like partners involved, right? It's like it becomes a huge logistical challenge just to get people together. I think the challenge is like everyone is, and I was having a conversation with one of my best friends about this. Like, I think the challenge with getting older, of course, is just your life becomes so much more complex in terms of prerogatives, responsibilities at work, assuming you're progressing in work. Yeah, life just gets harder and gets easier. Like I guess when you're older, you worry less about like. I think when I was younger, I usually kind of freaked out about stuff in school, and like I had a problem where I had a problem just like catastrophizing in school, like everything, like with grades and just like passing and things like that. Sometimes things felt like the end of the world if I didn't do well in a class or not. But in retrospect, it's kind of just like little bumps in the road. Honestly, it's easier there. Like you don't worry about little stuff. I think the harder part is about just getting older. Is just getting like making sure we're just getting people together. I think is the hard part. I think aside from like family. I'm just anecdotally, like with my immediate family, it's really hard just to get hangout time with your really good friends if they don't live in your city. I'm sure like that's a common thread. Like I feel like a lot of people's experience, especially if you're from the States, like I am. That's how it's going to be. People move away, get busy with jobs, work, or building their own families, or like their partnerships, equivalent to families, equivalent to like a household. And yeah, life just gets really busy and complex. There's often these days, now that I'm an adult, when you come home, a long, busy day of work, in some sense, like you just wish that you not wish you miss that feeling of, or I miss that feeling of, going into the game room or the lounge and people are there, we're there to strike a conversation. I mean, when I go home, it's pretty quiet. I don't have a pet. Maybe I should get a pet. That might be the anecdote, or not the anecdote, the antidote. I guess my loneliness, in that sense. But yeah, like you go home, it's quiet, and you miss those days back in college where people were there and you just hang out, just have a conversation. Talk what's on your mind. Talk discursively. Like you don't really have those opportunities. At least in my profession, my life right now. Every moment is planned. At least at work. And like in my job, there's no such thing as slack time. Every hour, you are doing something. And if you're not, you're probably doing something wrong. But there isn't that freedom to roam or have the discursive conversations that you used to have in college, or just do random stuff, right? And just have a fun go of it, right? Just kind of in the moment doing stuff. Now it's very, life is very regimented, at least for me. Maybe except for vacation, like I make it a point, if I go on a vacation by myself, it isn't as stressful or as tightly planned as my daily life, just because that level of planning is can be exhausting after a while. But yeah, I think cleaned out those oxtails. That's what I think. Yeah, I kind of feel like I look back now as a dude in my entering his 30s, right? Kind of miss those moments. I think there's always discourse about, being happy and finding satisfaction within, but I think you can do that to some extent. To another extent, though, like you need community. Like you need to be in a relationship with people. Like that's why people, fall in love and make friends and get married. Not in that order necessarily, or whatever order, but like we are fundamentally built to be in relation with one another. And I think the narrative that you often hear in circles of my generation, millennials, Gen Y technically, Gen Y, millennials, Gen Z, to be completely self-satisfied first before you engage in community with others or enter a relationship. I think that's not correct necessarily. I think at least a lot of my life satisfaction is gained through my relationships with other people, being able to be there for other people, maybe not even talk. Like we don't always have to engage with just being in the presence of another person that you value or cherish or love. That's what's really important in life. And yeah, I don't know. It feels things feel disjointed sometimes, I think, with life. I think spending a lot of time, or folks in my circles spend a lot of time working. It's honestly can be a pretty lonely life. Come home, it's a quiet house, there's nobody home, nobody to greet you, no one for you to ask how your day went, and vice versa, no one to engage with. It can be pretty sucky sometimes, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's the timeless tale of getting old in the West. Maybe not to generalize the West, North America, U.S. and Canada. We are all just our little kind of lords to our own castles. And yeah, I think that seems to be the pattern of kind of life for a lot of people. It's just you branch out, your friends move away, partner up if you're able to find a partner, and then your world becomes kind of your family unit, right? In some sense, the atomic family, right? I'm just like completely rambling right now. I haven't even polished this glass of wine off yet, and I'm already rambling. But yeah, what else is there to say? I think about learnings in your 20s. I think there are some moments, right, that it's very hard to repeat once they're gone. And when you were young, that was the time to do it. I think as a corollary to that, though, that should be kind of a call to action that you should make the most of your time, the rest of your time you have, right? And don't let it go to waste, or don't sacrifice the big stuff at the expense of the small stuff. Um, and yeah, like for me, I want to be there for my family and friends. Everyone's getting older, everyone's getting busier, and that's my prerogative right now. Because I feel like at some level, maybe I wasn't there when I was younger, or I wasn't as good as I wanted to be in retrospect. Shoot, I don't know what else to talk about. I think anybody else relate with this? I think I don't really know if anybody watches these things, but what else? Learnings in my 20s and 30s, or not my 30s. Learnings in my 20s. You can't change people. I think I said that before. I guess corollary to that, don't enter into a relationship that doesn't honor your values or your desires. And I think follow up to that is if you don't know your core values and your desires, I would figure those out before you date people. One, more selfishly to not hurt yourself, and then two, more altruistically to not hurt other people. If you don't know what you want or value, then you should be in no business of dating other people. And I think people can argue and discover like hey, you can discover what you like by dating. A lot of times though, people just become collateral damage then. Not necessarily, but it's a very high probability of that. I can really taste the barrels, the oak barrels in this wine. Very nice and strong. But yeah, like what else is there to talk about? Learnings in my 20s and 30s. I don't really feel all that much different from 27, I'd say. I think I've gotten better as a person than who I was when I was 25. Um, but I don't know. Life isn't too much different from my late 20s. Well, it's definitely different than your early 20s, right? When you're surrounded by people. Now it's like that's another lesson. I think be intentional with your relationships. I think the more you practice that when you're young, like actively prioritizing relationships that you value and are like ideally where both people are mutually valued. You should prioritize those and practice kind of making time for people like that. And it's easy to not be intentional, I think, when you're still in school because you're just surrounded by everyone who is doing exactly what you're doing, going through the same things. And it's easy just to be kind of not be intentional there. And I think that's another thing. I think that's one regret I do have when I was younger is I wasn't as intentional in my relationships back in school. I think I didn't flex that muscle enough. And now it's like, I don't know. Like when you're in if there's anyone who's in college right now watching, like that is probably one of the most important times in your life to build long lasting friendships. And like I've made some great friends from school. Friends I still talk to from today. But definitely, I think I could have been a better friend back then, um, and invested more in the relationship. I think you know entropy is like the natural state of the universe, and that applies to friendships too. It becomes harder to maintain them when you get older, and if you're not used to practicing that level of intentionality in your relationships, yeah, choosing to prioritize time to talk to your friends, to reach out to your friends, to being proactive. Um, Oftentimes your friendships they kind of it doesn't they don't disappear overnight, but they kind of whittle away in some sense gradually over time. Um, I think this might be just a dude thing, to be honest. Like, not to, I guess people are going to criticize me for typecasting, but like I definitely think dudes don't talk as much as like girls. And I don't know. I think that can be empirically proven, like, or at least I feel like I see more levels of engagement, in female friend groups. But who am I to know? I'm a dude. My live experience is a dude. Um, Maybe I'm just typecasting, but I don't know. I think, yeah. What am I trying to say? It's hard to maintain friendships when you get older, and so that's what I was trying to say. It's hard to maintain friendships when you get older. Try to practice being intentional when you're young, and they'll set you up for success when you get old. You've become used to reaching out. You become used to making time, prioritizing friendship, and it works both ways too. Like I think we can't always expect our friends to be perfect, and everyone will let you down. You'll probably let somebody down too, right? But it's important to be there and to like show up and like to be present too. Like even if you're physically there, make sure you're mentally there too. Yeah, I think that's kind of maybe life lessons for me to my young from older Julian to older Jules to younger Jules. I think aside from that, I don't feel like life is significantly different. I think life is much quieter now. Um, but materially, still working hard, right? It's just not books. You're working at a job, right? The work is still hard. The days can be long. Um, but all in all, if you know the days go, the days might feel like they take forever to go through, but the years go really fast. And so take advantage of the time you have. Um, if that's my message from tonight, kind of eating my oxtails and reflecting on my 20s. And yeah, this is MUKBANG Jules, signing out. Cheers, y'all.